Welcome back to JB Squared. I'm JB Hager, joined by Johan Bernil, and we're going to take a look at a very exciting Stage 6 of the Tour de France, a look ahead to the sprint stage tomorrow, Stage 7, and how quickly the tables turn on what the general public thinks is happening in the Tour de France. We'll elaborate on that more. But first, we're going to check in with a couple of our partners and some special offers for you. Today's show is brought to you by HVMN. They're the makers of Ketone IQ. And of course, you've been hearing Lance and George talk about it for some time, all the physical benefits they get. And I was just talking to a friend of mine about it this morning. He was asking me about Ketones IQ. And I said, honestly, and I've been taking them for a few months now, daily, a shot daily. And I feel more mental clarity than I have in a long, long time. It definitely helps that. And even while we're out here doing 4 shows a day, usually when I get done at like 3 p.m., all I want to do is bonk and crash in years past. I think the Ketone IQ has a lot to do with it. That sustainable energy. And I'm just ready to go and get on the bike and get outside after that, as opposed to bonking. So a little testament there. There's a reason that most of the peloton is using Ketones IQ. And you should give it a try. Just do a subscription so you can give it a routine, give it a legitimate try over a 2-3 month period would be my recommendation. And I'm pretty confident you're going to see some improvement. All right, both physically and mentally. You can save 30% on your first subscription order of Ketone IQ at hvmn.com/themove. Again, visit hvmn.com/themove and subscribe upon checkout for 30%. Today's show is also brought to you by Ventum. As an owner of the NS1 and the GS1, I can tell you it's been a great experience on both bikes, both my road bike and my gravel bike. And what's pretty unique about Ventum is all the specs and details they let you pick out when you're building out your bike. I mean, I really enjoyed the experience, and I did several build outs, and then I would ask friends, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? And the people at Ventum were super helpful, making sure I got the right size, the right specs, and all of that. But also the thing that I think that's pretty unique and cool about it is usually with a lot of bike brands, if your budget is $3,000, well, you get a frame that's like this. If it's $5,000, you get a frame that's like that. If it's a $10,000 to $15,000, well, then you're going into their top of the line frame. With Ventum, the NS1, GS1 frames are the same, whether it's a $3,000 build out with your components or $15,000 if you do wheel upgrades and all that stuff. So the frame is the frame, and it's great. It's top of the line. And as I mentioned, you can start getting into a GS1 at $29.99. So right at $3,000, you could be rolling on your brand new GS1. So go check it out at ventumracing.com/themove. If you put in that full URL, it'll give you 10% off on your order, which really adds up when you're buying a new bike. Again, ventumracing.com/themove for 10% off. All right, Johan, let's start out with this because it's something you pointed out to me, and I think everyone witnessed it, is yesterday we felt like it's Jonas Vingegaard's tour to win. It's over. He'd put a minute up, and there was not much we can do about it. This isn't going to be very exciting. He's going to hold on to that and parade into Paris. Today, Pogacar flipped the script, as they say, and it was like a payback. It was almost like the same thing in reverse. And so now everyone's going, wait a minute, this might be one of the best head-to-head Tour de France's in history.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, yesterday it was a big disappointment for Pogacar, of course, and especially the super performance of Jonas Vingegaard was incredible. Especially if you look at the numbers and his performance on the last climb, that was crazy. But it was also clear that Pogacar was not his usual self. You could see clearly that he was not able to drop Sepp Kuss, who was the guy who did the last work for Vingegaard, and then got caught by all the other riders. So today, different game. Pogacar turned it around, and he was definitely a lot better than yesterday. And Vingegaard was, I don't know if he was that much less than yesterday. I mean, the numbers, if you look at the numbers of their performance on the Tourmalet, one would say it's very similar. Yesterday, Vingegaard performed 6.9 watts per kilo over 21 minutes on the Marie Blanc. Today, both Vingegaard and Pogacar performed 6.8 watts per kilo over the last 15 minutes on the Tourmalet, but with the difference that it's at 2,000 meters and the Marie Blanc is only 1,000 meters. So it looks like Vingegaard was more or less at the same level, but Pogacar was a lot better than yesterday. So I think that kind of puts the clocks back, not to zero, because Jonas Vingegaard has now the yellow jersey, and he has a 25-second lead over Pogacar in GC. But you know what? 25 seconds is that's nothing. I think especially with this return of Pogacar, not so much the time difference, but the mental comeback for him, and the mental disappointment of Jonas Vingegaard and Jumbo-Visma it's great for us. We yesterday we were thinking, okay, is this going to be boring? Is this going to be just looking at Jonas Vingegaard attacking in all the mountains? Based on what we saw today, it's definitely not going to be the case.
And now it feels like the team dynamics come more into play, trying to keep these guys protected and conserve energy, and yet we see Jumbo expending all kinds of energy. Of course, as you said on the move, they were trying to put the nail in the coffin today.
Yeah. Well, every day there's something that we can criticize, right? Mm-hmm. Yesterday, for example, we said UAE tactics were not great. Today, I think personally that the Jumbo-Visma tactics were what they were to be expected after getting this super morale boost yesterday, saying, okay, Pogacar's not at his level, because let's not forget, these guys know exactly what they perform. And then if Pogacar couldn't follow yesterday, they say, okay, he's only at 6.6 watts per kilo, for example, right? So going off that, I can understand what Jumbo-Visma wanted to do today. They had Wout van Aert in the breakaway from kilometer 0, first attacker, so that was clear that was going to be the guy who needed to stay up front in case Jonas Vingegaard was able to distance Pogacar on the Tourmalet on the second last climb. And then we saw that on the Tourmalet, Jumbo-Visma started to accelerate, and especially from La Mongie, the little ski station with 4 kilometers to go to the top. There they increased the tempo, and finally with 2 kilometers to go, Vingegaard attacked. Pogacar reacted, to the contrary of yesterday. We had really no answer at all. Today he was there in a heartbeat, didn't even blink. So there, I think there you have to make the decision. Okay, our plan is not going to work, guys. This guy's better than yesterday. And I don't know if that's then a decision of Jonas Vingegaard or it's a decision from the car. Fact is that as soon as Vingegaard put in that attack on the Tourmalet and Pogacar followed him, it's not just, looking behind, and although there are a lot of people, but you can still feel if a guy's comfortable or not. Like, you can you look behind a little bit, you can see the facial expression. Sometimes you can even hear the breathing, even with so many people. So I think there the mistake was made. Those last 2 kilometers on the Tourmalet was the mistake of the day, I would say, from Vingegaard. Now, if Vingegaard got the instructions from the car and they kept pushing him, you have him on the ropes, that's possible. I think that's probably the case. Then the guy's going to keep going, right? If you look at the time on the last 4 kilometers of the Tourmalet, it was 6.8 watts per kilo, a VAM, which is, we talked about it in the move. It's a way of measuring the speed on any climb. 1936 meters of VAM. That's super, super fast, especially at altitude. So he was going super fast. For sure, Pogacar was also not just, sitting there easily, but not the same guy as yesterday. And I wrote down here, I write down, Vingegaard makes the same mistake on the Tourmalet as the mistake Pogacar made last year on the Galibier. In that stage where finally Jonas goes away on the Col de Granon and Vingegaard loses, I think, close to 3 minutes. The differences were not the same, but it's the same mistake. He should have known. He should have known that Pogacar was a different guy and was not going to be easy to drop. And then, of course, at the end, if you look how that's something I didn't expect, honestly. That's something where these guys keep surprising me. If you see that attack of Tadej Pogacar on the last climb, that's not the same guy as yesterday. That was the Pogacar we know. And that difference in speed, that acceleration when he goes with about 2K to go, I think 2.5 kilometers to go on Cotteret on the last climb. That's a completely different guy. That was really impressive. I would have expected personally that Pogacar would have followed Jonas and beat him in the sprint. In my opinion, that would have been a moral victory if he stayed with him and he won the stage. Now, he did a lot more than that. So, these guys keep surprising me. It's crazy, crazy, crazy.
Yeah, that was an impressive attack. You'd think at the pace that they were at, there wouldn't be, you don't have that other gear. Like, that was a massive acceleration.
Yeah, if then you compare it to yesterday, for example, when Jonas Vingegaard attacked on the Marie Blanc, Pogacar looked down to his gears, to his power meter, and he just stayed there. He had no answer. And today was, wow. That was the Pogacar that we know from the past.
And you've said it, and we've talked about it on the show, that Pogacar could get stronger as this tour continues, and maybe a bit of an advantage as we progress, because he hadn't not been racing as much leading up to it because of his injury. Mm-hmm. So that's all I kept thinking about after seeing this today. I'm like, we don't know. We don't know if that's going to be the case, JB. One thing is for sure, I did just listen to an interview of Matteo Trentin, one of his teammates, and he clearly said, he said, obviously we were disappointed yesterday after the stage, but the disappointment was not huge. We also were talking in the bus, like they do a debriefing, and it was basically his first big, huge effort after his crash in Liège-Bastogne-Liège yesterday. Now, logic would say that doesn't really change the day after, right? So that's why I keep admiring these guys. We can think and we can criticize, but we have to acknowledge and be grateful that we are witnessing these huge, incredible champions. The talent of these guys is just unbelievable. You have a Jonas Vingegaard, you have a Pogacar, you have a Van Aert, you have a Van der Poel, you have an Evenepoel, Primož Roglic. I think those six kind of stick out. Then you have Pidcock, and don't want to leave anybody out, but it's unbelievable how talented these guys are. This is a great era. This is an incredible era. We'll always look back on this fondly, I think. I'm kind of curious about something you alluded to it just a minute ago. You were like, I don't know if Jonas decided that or heard it from the car. Comparing these two riders, Pogacar and Vingegaard, I kind of feel like Pogacar races from the gut and instinct, and Vingegaard seems more like he takes directives from the car. Yeah, no doubt about that. Yeah. No doubt about that. We spoke with Mauro Gianetti when we were on our Tour de Flanders trip with George. We ran into him at the start, and we asked him, about Pogacar. I said, because he was obviously the huge favorite. It was before the race. And I told him, I said, man, is it not too much? Is it not too much racing at this level? And
he said, man, it's this guy, as soon as he has numbers on his back, he wants to win. There's not much we can do. Says, I mean, it's great to see, but he just wants to race and he wants to win. And he wanted, the Tour of Flanders was his big goal of the season. And, finally he won it. Let's not forget, that this guy beat Wout van Aert. He didn't beat them. He laughed in their faces. He dropped them on their terrain, on the cobbles. So, there's only very few people who can do something like Pogacar does today, like turn around the situation where yesterday everybody was, okay. It's kind of logical. He was injured. He came back. He doesn't have the top speed. He's not on 100% form. Well, today that's changed. So I'm looking forward to the next battle, which will be on Sunday on Puy de Dôme.
I know you wanted to talk a little bit more about Jumbo strategy and what they were doing with Wout van Aert. And then after that, I would love your thoughts on what Jumbo should be doing now, especially in yellow, now that they're in yellow. But let's start with Wout van Aert.
Yeah, I mean, Wout van Aert attacking from kilometer 0. Everybody in the peloton knew already then what they could expect on the Tourmalet. Even Pogacar in his post-race interview said, and there you see, how uncertain everything is until they actually do it. Pogacar must have felt he had a lot better legs than yesterday, but still, he said clearly when he saw Jumbo-Visma coming to the front on the Tourmalet, he was expecting it, but then once it happened, he said, oh no, I hope we don't have the same situation as yesterday, that Jonas goes and I can't follow. So until Jonas didn't attack, he didn't even know, if he was able to follow. But going back to the strategy, so it was clear they want to have Van Aert in the front. They wanted to try to test Pogacar on the steep slopes of the Tourmalet, create the same situation as yesterday, and then have Van Aert get to the top of the Tourmalet, drive Pogacar to the bottom of the last climb, and then basically finish off your main rival, knowing that he's not in top shape. That was the idea behind it. And I think the strategy of Jumbo-Visma was kind of okay. I repeat, Vingegaard's action after having made that attempt was a little less, but that was clearly the plan. You could clearly see at a certain moment, people who were watching the race and may have thought, okay, you have a breakaway, you have Wout van Aert driving the breakaway, setting the pace, and then all of a sudden on the Tourmalet you have Jumbo-Visma starting to set the pace. And so at the moment Jumbo-Visma started to set the pace, Wout van Aert, also member of Jumbo-Visma, accelerated in the breakaway. So you could say, wow, why do they do that? Why would Van Aert now start to go faster if his teammates start to pull in the back, right? Mm-hmm. But it was clear that they were calculating that Van Aert needed a certain buffer on the top of the Tourmalet, because they knew that in the last 4 kilometers, Jumbo-Visma was going to increase the speed, and then ultimately Vingegaard was going to attack. And that difference, that advantage that Van Aert had, would melt as ice under the sun in the last kilometer. So that was really well planned. Van Aert came to the top of the climb, I think, with 35 seconds or something, 40 seconds on Vingegaard. So ideal, he could then, the first 1 kilometer of the downhill, Van Aert could, just take it easy, drink, eat a little bit, because he knew that from then on, he would have to drive Jonas Vingegaard, ideally by himself, right, to the bottom of the last climb. Now, the problem they had was that their strategy worked, except that Pogacar was with their main guy. So they were basically stuck with their own strategy, because then Van Aert had to pull with Vingegaard, but actually also bringing Pogacar without any efforts to the last climb. And then finally, we saw what happened.
How nice it must be to have a rider like Van Aert that go up there, Come back here. Go up there.
Crazy.
Come back here.
Crazy. It's like you're with a remote control. Okay, well, now go. Okay, well, it's fine. Nothing happens in the back here. We have another button here. Now you can go for the stage win.
Right.
By the way, no, they're attacking here in the back now. So slow down and wait. And then when Jonas comes, then go fast again until the bottom of the last climb. This guy is just, so much for all the speculations, of the bad atmosphere. There's been all this, criticism, me including, on stage 2, where we said that Jonas would have made a mistake. I think that's still the case, but they definitely talked about it. And today we saw a Wout van Aert 100% at the service of the team and at the service of his leader. So, yeah, incredible.
Yeah, it is incredible. What do you think about Jumbo going forward? Of course, Jonas moved into yellow today. That puts more pressure on a team. And then I think you can elaborate on how much they have done already through 6 stages. It's, the fatigue has got to be brutal.
Yeah, independently of how much work they have done already, now they have the leader's jersey. So if I would be Jumbo-Visma, I would still be very, very, precautious, try to save energy, even if there is at some moment a possibility to give the jersey to someone else. I would definitely do that. It's only stage 6. Tomorrow it's not going to happen because it's going to be a bunch sprint, but maybe in the next stages, now the roles have inversed, right? So now Pogacar sitting there in 25 seconds. In theory, he's now on the up, I would say. Vingegaard stays in his position, but now he's in yellow. And Pogacar and UAE can now basically say, okay, we don't do nothing. We just stay where we are. We ride on your wheel. Jumbo-Visma is a very strong team, and this team that they brought to the Tour is incredibly strong. So I'm not really worried for them to have to work. Tomorrow they don't have to work that much at all, and then I still need to look at the stage for Saturday. But it's I don't know. They will have to make sure that they're not too ambitious and not too naive. I don't think they are. But from day 6 to control then the next 2 weeks in a Grand Tour with one team, that's a big task, a huge task. But they can do it. They definitely have the horsepower to do it, knowing that there's only one guy they have to really be worried about, which is it's Pogacar. Anything else is basically okay for them.
Why don't you share with us some of the calculations you've done on all the efforts they've had to put in climbing in just 6 days? And keep in mind, 2 of those are sprint stages.
Yeah. So 6 days of racing, including 2 stages, which were a sprint stage, which were relatively easy. So 2,000 meters of elevation or below on average over that stage. And they've now done 18,000 meters of climbing, which brings me to an average of 3,000 meters, which is roughly 10,000 feet on average per day. And this includes 2 easy stages. So just in case tomorrow there's people complaining that riders are taking it easy, or that, because everybody knows it's a bunch sprint tomorrow. So the question is, are we going to see attacks? If I'm in the Tour de France, if I'm a rider, I don't want to go in the attack tomorrow. I want to,
because it's going to get pulled back, because there's the sprinters teams have a goal, especially with Cavendish and Alpecin. We'll get into Cavendish.
I think independently whether there's a breakaway or not, if there's a breakaway, it's going to be a small breakaway, and it's going to be boring anyway. We all know how the stage is going to finish. It's going to be a bunch sprint. So I personally think whether there's 2 or 3 riders in the front or none doesn't really matter, right? It's not the fault of the rider. If nobody of those, normally then when you have teams that go in breakaways, it are the teams. It would be an X or Arkea or Total Direct Energies or these teams that have been invited to the Tour. But as a cyclist, it's not fun to be out there tomorrow on a flat stage with whatever it's going to be, 3-4 minutes all day, and knowing that you're going to be caught. It's not, you're on TV. Yeah, you're on TV.
And there are some riders and teams who need that.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, no, I don't think it's so much for the riders. Sponsors, they can. Although I also think that the level of the sponsorship is high in terms of their product and what they expect, that it's not going to change that much if you have one rider of your team riding there for 2 hours on TV, or maybe it does. I don't really know what that means in terms of marketing value. But tomorrow we can expect, first of all, a tired peloton going off what we just saw here. 3,000 altitude meters, 10,000 meters, 10,000 feet every day, and a sprint stage. So we won't see too much action until the last few kilometers tomorrow.
And it's a good opportunity for Mark Cavendish. Everyone's keeping an eye on this record of Tour de France wins. But man, as I've seen this Alpecin duo with Van der Poel and Philipsen, that's a tough thing to go up against.
Yeah.
But Cavendish is good at finding his way. What can we expect?
It is an ideal opportunity. The competition is really tough. You have Philipsen with, one of the best riders in the world leading him out, Mathieu van der Poel. You have Caleb Ewan, who's, was close a few times. There's other sprinters, Jakobsen. I think Jakobsen has been really hurt and from that crash and has been suffering a lot the last 2 days. So maybe he's not the real contender, but there's an opportunity. Listen, and this also shows, how incredible of a rider Mark Cavendish has been over more than the last decade, because he won a sprint in Bordeaux 13 years ago in 2010, and that was already his fourth Tour de France stage win.
Yeah, the guys he's sprinting against were just little kids, probably watching the Tour for the first time with their parents when he was winning.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Philipsen was, 13 years ago. Philipsen was what? He was 10 years old, 11 years old. So,
wow.
Tomorrow's an interesting stage for him. Listen, whenever there's a sprint, and you can see that he has the level. There's a possibility tomorrow, but I'll
be curious to see.
He will not like this.
Oh,
but the best ending would be that he doesn't win a stage until the Champs-Élysées. That would be amazing. Yeah.
And you know what? I thought about that more because you said that before. That's the Hollywood ending, right? That's the perfect story. And then retire. Like, oh yeah, but gosh.
Since there's absolutely zero guarantees that's going to happen, he needs to go after every single opportunity he gets.
Of course. But I could also see this too, is anybody who's been watching the Tour for a long time, the GC is decided before going into Paris. And teams are it's most of a celebration for everybody just to get through it and make it to Paris. I could see some friends and allies leading him out in Paris from other teams.
In Paris, that would potentially be a possibility. Now, not in these stages. But in Paris, listen, we saw the incredible gesture that Geraint Thomas did in Rome, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, let's see. It would be incredible for him to win tomorrow, and that would be like, wow, crazy.
Okay, we will see tomorrow, and yeah, it's. I think the TV coverage starts a little late. It'll be, I don't think you're going to miss much, right?
No.
Right. So we'll jump into that tomorrow. Let's do some other things here. We do have an opportunity for you to win a Ventum NS1, their cool road bike, by doing this trivia. All right. So yesterday's question was, what was Vince Vaughn drinking in Lance Armstrong's cameo in the movie Dodgeball? That answer was Scotch on the Rocks. Today's question, and again, I'll give you the email so you can enter to win the bike. What famous sports announcer was in Lance Armstrong's This Is Sports Center commercial? What famous sports announcer was in Lance Armstrong's This Is Sports Center commercial? Find the answer, Google it, do whatever you need to do, and send the answer into trivia@ventumracing.com. From the correct answers, they're going to draw a person every day. They'll go into the drawing on the final day to win that NS1. All right. And now I'll have you elaborate on this because you've done it firsthand. But there is an opportunity for our listeners, friends, and family of We Do to go to Mallorca. Which the more I hear about Mallorca from you guys, it's definitely going to be a bucket list place for me to go. But it's in late September, the 24th through the 29th, and you can join a We Do cycling camp and dinners and camaraderie and obviously an incredible hotel and place to ride your bike. So I'll have you elaborate on what this is going to be like, Johan.
Yeah, it's the third year in a row we do this event. There's a few, I mean, it's very limited, very, very limited amount of people, but there's a few places available still. I mean, it's one of the best weeks I had in my life. 2 times, so much fun. Lance and George are riding every day with the guests. It's not very difficult. It's not super easy, but you have to be a cyclist. You don't have to be a super, super good cyclist. But the scenery is amazing, but especially what we have created there, this group, very limited. I think between guests and staff, we're probably about 20, 25 people maximum.
I like that.
It's really tight, group. 4 days of riding, incredible place we stay in at La Residencia, one of the best places I've ever stayed, and also for me specifically, what I've witnessed the last 2 years, and this is going to happen again this year, is this reunion between Lance Armstrong and Jan Ullrich. Jan has become one of our loyal guests for this camp, and not just on the bike but also off the bike. It's 24/7, and it's not just riding and then everybody disappears. This is really an you're immersed within the team, the We Do team, right? That was so special for me to be part of, and now I can't wait to see that again. Jan has been training quite a bit too. He's fit, so it's kind of nice to at least one day. The rivalry between George and Lance is, as we all know from the move, that's there, and one or the other, always depending on which day, wants to kick the other's ass. That's just that's still there. You can witness that, and you can be part of it from very close by. But that kind of rivalry, which has turned into an incredible friendship between Lance and George, Lance and Jan, and then seeing them on the bike, and not that I'm not saying that they want to race each other, but the one doesn't want to look bad and the other one doesn't want to look bad against each other, right? So I've seen this now, and the little nervousness that there is, it's very, very special, very special. So yeah, I mean, I think you have the information, no, JB, about where they can find on the website.
If you go to wedo.team, WEDU, wedo.team, and on the top menu bar, you'll see one for travel. And you could probably check that periodically as we're working on more of these types of events going forward. So yeah, what an event of a lifetime. And I'll elaborate on what you said. It's been incredible to watch Jan Ullrich's recovery, and and he's definitely got that forward, never straight. attitude. I just finished
Definitely, yeah.
Last month I finished that Daniel Freebie. How do you say his name? His
Daniel
book about
book, yeah.
his
Very
book
nice book.
about Jan Ullrich, and it's, as you know, from being a fan during your postal era, we all became fans of Jan Ullrich too, right? That's an incredible read, and you just really learn what that man has been through. It's an incredible story. So I love seeing it. So I love following Jan on socials. I do see that he looks great. He looks healthy, and he's on the right path. And I think it's
he's going to be with us that week in Mallorca. And so, as I said, you know, I mean, I've known these guys for a very long time. It's very, very special to me to see them back together. So I can only imagine what it means for. I mean, it's unique. It is unique. There's no other words for it.
Yeah, I mean, and in all the time I've known Lance, I feel like he has three people that he sees as brothers. You know, you, George, and Jan, like, are brothers for the man.
Well, we'll all be there. We'll all be there.
Yeah, incredible. You know what? I'm going to hang on to questions for a future show. We're running long. I know you're doing 4 shows today. That's quite a workload because you came on the move. If people didn't see or hear that, go listen to that. That was some really good stuff too. And you've also got to move on to outcomes. I'm dying to hear how you guys break down this sprint for tomorrow, because you know it very well, as does Spencer. And then you've got to do La Movida today. So I'm going to cut you loose. Thank you, Johan. If anybody wants to write in, you can send it to JB2, JB squared at wedo.team. And we'll talk tomorrow, Johan.
Okay, JB. Thanks.